Friday.
Happy Friday, Louise. We are here again with your Kick-Ass Career Weekly wrap-up, and Buster's here too. Oh, he has things to say and share with the world. It's awesome. Hi, everybody who's joining us live for your Kick-Ass Career Weekly wrap-up. We are so glad that you're here. Drop us in the comments as to how you're doing this week. If you're feeling like Buster and you're feeling a little amped up and needing to shout something from the rooftops, feel free to let us know that. Is he all good now?
He's good for now. He's just leaning into his superpowers, which is what we'll talk about later.
All right. So we have to digress. I mean, we're going to talk about superpowers in a second, but like Buster's tiny. Well, he's not that tiny, but Buster's tiny. Buster uses that superpower of, I have things to say right now, right?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Because we all have that. Like maybe we're not screaming from the rooftops like Buster did, but we have that ability to find that voice inside of us that is our superpower and let it out. Oh. So before we dive any further into superpowers, which is what we are talking about this week, Louise, how has your week been?
My week has been, it's been pretty good. So I feel like my week has been a little bit of my last week. I felt like I had a really great last week, and because I took the time to reflect on what worked and what wasn't working and pull some of those things into this week, I feel like I've been able to set myself up for success. I made some really good traction on some projects. I've been able to create that you're going to hate the word, but balance in flow, harmony,
there we go.
synchronicity in my whole life. Oh, was that the card that you pulled today?
It is the card that I pulled today.
And
yeah, look at that. It's meant to be.
Yeah, so interesting. Thank you, universe. But yeah, so I feel like and I love that you and I are here every Friday because it forces me to do that, right? Like having an accountability buddy or having importance put on this whole piece of like what went well in my last week and what do I want to bring forward into my next week, and even planning a little bit. Like Friday afternoons for me have become a little bit of that reflection piece, but also I've started to work that planning piece in because I actually don't want to sit down at my computer Sunday night and think about my week. I want to be able to show up Monday morning like fresh faced and ready to start the day and not have to like figure that all out. Feels really good when I open my Notion board because that's what I use for my business, and I know exactly what I'm doing for at least the beginning part of the week already. And it's just like, I don't know, it's like having my own personal assistant who's figured all that stuff out before I even get started. And that's me because I take the time to do it today. So anyways, that's my whole, that's my reflection on what's gone really well. How about you, Kim?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I think I've admitted here publicly that July and August came with multiple challenges in our lives here. And it had felt crunchy. There had been a lot of celebrations and a lot of good things, but overall it had felt a little crunchy. It was as though the universe came in with a giant duster and cleared all that stuff out as we stepped into September. My energy has been different. I have been able to show up. I'm actually, so as much as I try to use systems that are online, like Notion and Asana and like all of I've tried them all. I've tried them all. And I've also tried other people's planners and calendar. I don't know if it's the rebel in me and I don't want to use somebody else's system. And the cool thing about some of these is you can tailor them, but I don't really have an interest in spending the time to do that, quite frankly. So I am old school. I have notebook. And I have been so super productive, which for me is not necessarily a huge marker of success always. But what I realized this week for me is that when I label things as being productive, it feels like I'm leaning into that idea of productivity over quality, doing versus being, which is not where I want to be in my life. I've spent a lot of my life in the doing energy. And yet this week, this idea of I've been productive on what is moving things forward for me in a way that is, there's things on here that are not, I did check them off that I did them, but it's not a task, right? It was like, oh yeah, I did that. I ended the day by feeling strong. I ended the day by, so it's like, I'm paying attention to where I want to show up and how I want to show up. Right. So having that ability. So I am celebrating that the energy for me has shifted in September, and I feel really focused on moving my goals forward, particularly as we're entering the last month of the third quarter, as we head into the fourth quarter. What do I want to accomplish personally, professionally, energetically before the year closes out?
Right.
So yeah, so it has felt like a really good week in that way for me as well. So it's exciting. Kind of feel like I can add that it feels a little superpowery right now.
Woo!
So yes, that is what we're talking about today, right? Superpowers, harnessing them.
Sure is. I would love for folks to put in what they're celebrating in the comments. So please do, even if you're listening to this on Memorex in replay, you can reach out and on YouTube, put in those comments and find the recorded session. If you're listening to us on podcasts, like reach out and let us know what you're celebrating, please. We don't celebrate enough on the things that we do. We don't take enough time to really call those out. So I just encourage you to share. And if you're not going to share here, share with someone one thing that you're celebrating this week.
Right. Just like Louise, you had said, having that accountability buddy, right? So we have this set up. We're just publicizing what we're doing and having a conversation around it. But we show up each week really with the intention of how am I reflecting on my week, and how do I want to integrate some of these things that come up and we talk about more deeply into my business, into my personal life, into my professional life, into my career. Right.
Yeah.
So find that accountability buddy, whether it is us, because we are here to help you with that, or somebody else.
Yeah. It's a big part of our Your Kickass Career community, right? That we're launching at the end of this month already.
Not even the end, like you get. So we're so excited because we're going to be doing some launch events, not next week, but the week after. We encourage you to go to the yourkickasscareer.com to join the waitlist to get more information if you're interested in finding out about the community. What we're doing in the community is we are creating a space for people to build their kick-ass career, whether you're a professional, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a little bit of both, right? Because there are those multi-passionate people out there that have multiple hats that they wear. We just want you to be developing your own kick-ass career. So the community is there for that. There's educational opportunities, resources, networking opportunities, mastermind opportunities. You get us.
And this will be a part of that, right? Like the weekly wrap up and the reflections is all built into this community place that we're building. And so looking forward for you to check it out.
Absolutely. All right. So let's go back to this idea of superpowers. So we used to run a masterclass on superpowers back in the day. And it was super fun because it allowed people to see where those superpowers come from. Louise, do you want to talk a little bit into kind of where do we get our superpowers from?
Well, it's funny because, when I talk to folks about understanding their superpower, like they kind of laugh. My clients kind of go like, what are you talking about? And it's like, we all have this unique part of who we are inside that when we bring it out, into the world, it's like it is our superpower. It's like nothing that anyone else has. And so it's made up of all kinds of little bits and pieces, but really it's like the uniqueness of like who we are and what we put out into the world. How do we make an impact? How do we make the ripples that we want to make? And that's really using our superpowers, understanding what that is. Its values, its strengths, gifts, talents, skills, potential, right? Experience, like it's all of those things wrapped up in the package that is you.
Yeah. What is one of your favorite ways to identify somebody's superpowers? Because you just went through a whole list of things.
Yeah.
Like, what are some tools or activities that you like to use?
I love this idea of thinking about what you like to do when you were a kid. Like before all of the pressures of the world came down upon us and we got should on by the world, right? What were the things that we naturally gravitated to? Where did we find, right, bits of joy? Who did we hang out with? What did we do? And I think that gets down to a part of like that essential piece of us that's inside somewhere. How about you, Kim? What's one of your faves?
So it's quite in alignment with that, right? I really think that when we talk about, so I like to go to the place of play. And sometimes we haven't played since we were little, right? So it could be more current, like what do you like to do when you're playing? It could be what did you used to love to do when you were playing? So having play as a part of it really starts to uncover where we are in flow, where we're lit up, where we're excited, and where we're buzzing, right? Our energy is buzzing. And when we're in that place, that's when our superpowers get to show themselves. It was honestly where I started to realize that something like coaching could be fun for me. Was when I to me tapping into my curiosity and asking people questions and learning about them, but then also using my intuition to be able to say, hey, did you try this? Or using strategy, which is, I know I've talked about this before, like I was really mad that it kept showing up that strategy was like a superpower of mine. And now when I realize that I'm intuitively using tools to help people identify their strategies, it feels super playful for me.
Right.
So when I'm in session with a client, it's like, let's play.
Yeah.
Right? Because that became a superpower.
Yeah.
How do you think people who feel stuck or stagnant in a career can start to shake out this idea of, but our superpowers task-based, right? If I'm not good at something, I can't go get that new job. You know, so very often people get stuck and they're like in that place of, I want a new job, but I can't do it because I don't have that skill, that task-based skill.
Oh yeah, like when you're looking, the job boards are great and not great for listing like right like duties and responsibilities, and you're like, oh right, you get very fixated on a task. I've never done that task before, so I can't do it, and so I won't even apply, or it's not something that that's in my wheelhouse, when I really don't think that's true at all, right? But I think now you tell me if I'm answering your question. But like the sticky pieces that we see again, I think come from this idea of like there's a out there I gotta look for where I fit. Whereas I know you and I both strongly believe that's not the case. And it's really about understanding. I like to talk about it like this box. Like, who is this box that is Louise? Who is this box that is Kim? What are all of the things that go into this box, right? What are the sides like? What does it look like? What is it made of? What's inside it? And getting really, really clear on what that is. So now you can go out and say, where do I want, where do I want to give my gift? Where do I want to put this box that is me? Where is the impact that I want to make? Or what is the place, the organization, the company, the industry, fill in the blank that I want to give this gift to? Because that's what it is. When you look at building this box, it really is a gift that you get to give to someone. And I think when we can change that narrative to say, like, it's not about how I fit into work, right? It's about how work fits into my life. And it's a complete switch for a lot of people who are like, I just need the next job, or I need the next career. And we really stop to say, what is that like? What do you look like before you grow out into the world, to say, where can I work, or what can I do?
Well, it's interesting because we talk a lot about renovation, right? We both love the idea of renovation. Some of us are actually, building all sorts of things in our homes. That'd be her, not me. I would love to. That's not my superpower. The design aspect, that's where I would get it. But that idea of when we're looking for that right home, right? Whether it's an apartment, is it a townhome? Is it a mobile home? Is it a tent? Is it a multi-bedroom? Is it a Tudor? Is it a whatever? Is it a Forder? Whatever it is, we have a style, an aesthetic that fits for us. Now, the house that we pick, or the apartment, or the living space that we pick, may need some renovations to it to make it more our own, right? It may need something structural. It may just need wallpaper or paint, or just a different style of furniture brought inside of it. So very much the same way of kind of looking at if our work, if our career was a home, how would we choose how to outfit it or restructure it? Do we want to take out this wall, or do we just want to slap some paint on it and put on some different decorations on it? How is it that we really want to do it? And if we're just renting, how do we choose the space that works for us temporarily and be okay with the fact that it's temporary?
Right.
Because, that fits into this analogy as well, because very often it's like we take a job and we're like, this is my forever job. Why does it have to be, right? Like, use those superpowers to say that, I want this wallpaper. This is my strength over here, is to pick this aesthetic. And it's okay that it's not forever, right? So mixed metaphors with superpowers and home renovation, but I think it's that same idea, right? It's like, if you, instead of the home renovation, you went with the idea that, like, I have, laser vision, or I have empathy, or I have the skill of building a reclaimed wood wall. Like, those are all skills that we bring to the table.
Right. And I think really understanding, and so this is kind of the fun and the playful part about super powers, is really because it's meant to be fun, right? Like, yeah, I don't know how many times a week I say, right? Like when you show up at work, like, first of all, you get a magical redo. I will just say that right now, that there's nothing, unless you're a brain surgeon and you're listening to this, there may be a moment where you don't have a magical redo. So I just want to put that out there. But for all of the non-brain surgeons who are listening right now, you get to try. You get to try on a different color cape, or you get to experiment and grow and get information and try again. And so, much like you talked a little bit about, like, being okay with your rental, because it provides you with shelter while you look for something else. Understanding that you might not get your superpower exactly clicked in. You might not have the language immediately, but you get to try it on, and you get to say, hey, is this really me? Where do I want to practice to grow? And what can that look like? And you don't have to have it all figured out before you go and start to do it. It's an evolution. Like I don't know. Think about any origin story of any superhero. Kim, favorite superhero?
Oh, I'm just gonna go with Loki because that's my daughter's favorite superhero. Oh,
So
on the spot.
I totally put you on the spot, right? His origin story, like he didn't get it all the time, right? Like he is actually a lot of times an anti-hero.
Yep.
Right? Trying to figure out not just what he brings to the universe, what he brings to the world, but like what he wants to be doing with it. Making a ton of mistakes, and then choosing whether he learns from it or repeats it. Right. But this is this whole idea of like, we don't have to have it all figured out. We might have a superpower and not know exactly where we want to use it or how we want to use it. And we get to dive into that and explore that. And that's what lights me up, is that I get to explore that with people, right? And help them see not just what their superpower is, but how do they want to use it in the world.
Right. Well, that's that harnessing part of it, right? And giving, I love what you said about the practice, because the reality is there is, I hate to break it to everybody who's listening, there is no time where you're going to get it perfect. Let's just say it. It's just, I mean, Captain America, Iron Man, like you name it. When have they ever been perfect, right? There's always a flaw or multiple flaws about them. And honestly, that's what makes superheroes so relatable and why they're so important in our culture, because they teach us that it is okay to be fallible and strong. It is okay to be mischievous like Loki and still be lovable, right? Like there's that opportunity. And the harnessing of our superpowers comes from the experimentation, the play, the trying, and the being okay with making mistakes and saying, "Oh, that didn't work that way. Why didn't that work that way? How can I do it differently next time?" I think when we listen to our intuition, when we feel in that moment of flow, when we feel in that moment of this is lighting me up right now at this point in my life, we have landed on a really cool superpower that we have. And so how do we continue using that and evolving it and developing it? It may not be the same for the rest of your life. It may change over time, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It even happens with, made up superheroes. They evolve. We all do.
Well, just Iron Man, right? Not the same Iron Man as when he started.
Yep.
His costumes got better.
And pick your iteration of Spider-Man. Let's get real here. Like
pick your Batman even.
Your Batman. Yeah. Pick your Joker. I mean, whichever one, like they're all there and they all have superpowers.
Right.
And it's how you choose to use them and practice them and play with them, right? And that identification comes from that place of what brings you joy, what makes you feel light, what lights you up. How do you turn that into a career? Well, that's what we help people do, right? It's through experimentation. It's through looking and saying, this is a hell yes, this is a hell no, this is a sure, I could try that. It comes from having conversations with people. There's all sorts of different ways that you can start to harness it through the practicing, through the experimentation, and then creating opportunities for yourself in the world. We put together, and we talked about it a little bit, but we're going to talk about it a little bit again. We created a way to know what your superpower is, what your superhero self is for when you're looking at career change. And again, this is something that can be for somebody who's working for somebody else or for an entrepreneur, like wherever that shift is in your career, because entrepreneurs are still having a career, that you just work for yourself.
Yes.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny because people are like, well, how was it when you stepped off the career track? And I'm like, I didn't step off the career track. I just became an entrepreneur,
Still
which
have
is
a
my
career.
career. So if you head over to yourkickasscareer.com, there is an opportunity to take the superhero quiz, which, Louise, do you want to talk into kind of what they're going to walk away from taking the quiz with?
Well, yeah, I think you'll get a little more clear. You'll have a better understanding of where you're at. And we give some really great resources for each superhero archetype that comes out as a result. So I would just encourage you to go through that, learn a little bit more about yourself as well. Get the information that we have to share there too as a resource to today, to helping you kind of unpack and discover what's more, right? It's not just about knowing your superhero or your superpower, but it's more, right? It's deeper than that. And we have some really great resources. You'll get a ton of information just from doing a quick little quiz. That's a lot of fun to do.
Because play, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we find that place of play and ease and just like, let's just step into this and try it, we can get it can be fun, and you can walk away with some really good information that can help you take those steps towards what you want.
Yes. And Kim, you and I, here we are, we're talking about, right, like our superpowers, the greatness, the uniqueness that we have to put out into the world. When we can tap into that resource, we can really start to make that impactful change that we're looking to do. And I think it's important too to know your kryptonite, to know what obstacles can be getting in your way. And it's not just removing obstacles, because kryptonite is always your kryptonite. But understanding what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like when you get in your own way, how to be resourceful to step around it so that it doesn't derail you or get you off your path.
Yeah. So true. I mean, we were having this conversation earlier, and one of the things that is my kryptonite and can really get in my way is this little voice that I have in the back of my head that will be like, you're not doing it right. It's not how they told you to do it. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. No, keep doing it. No, try again. Got to do it perfectly. Come on, do it again. Which, when I hear it, I'm like, I need you to step off because I need to actually do the thing. But it took me a long time, right? It took me a long time to be able to recognize that voice needed a little bit of attention, needed a little bit of support, and needs to not drive the bus, because that voice is my kryptonite that will keep me spinning,
right,
and trying to get everything just right before I take that next step. And the reality is, in the part of my career where I was working for somebody else, it sometimes worked to my benefit, but very often it didn't. It made it more challenging, because not necessarily from the work that I was doing, but I was frustrated with the work everybody else was doing. I'm like, that's not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. Right? Like, I became judgy about everybody else's work, which then kept me from doing the stuff that I necessarily wanted to do in my work.
right.
And as an entrepreneur, you can only imagine how much that little voice keeps me from taking some big leaps when I really am ready to take those big leaps, because it will be like, you're not ready. Like,
Right.
And I don't, it does that. And it's right there. Louise, what's your kryptonite, or one of your pieces of kryptonite?
Yeah, I actually just posted about this on LinkedIn earlier this week, and it's that voice of like that, like just stay on the path. Like, it doesn't matter, just like head down, like just get it done. It does not matter if it's the wrong thing. It is just just plow right through it. Plow through it. Don't pay attention to any other information that's coming your way. Don't alter the course. Don't be a quitter.
So, what do you do with that voice?
Sit down and shut up, right? Like, no, it's understanding really about what it's trying to do, right? I really believe, right, all the parts of us, all of these things that come up, even our kryptonite really has our best intentions at heart.
100%.
So what is it really trying to tell me? And I do understand, right? Like, it's trying to tell me that, like let's get through it. Let's not get stuck. So I understand that. And that's also a very fixed mindset. That's not something that I want to entertain for very long. For sure, it has its uses in certain times. So I don't want to never have that come up. However, when it's time to adapt and be flexible and gather the information that's going on at the time so that I can offer it back that I meant to be. It's really when I take control of the bus.
Yeah.
We have a great best parts episode about parts. When we
Laura Ladla.
Yeah. Yeah, about what that looks like. And so but yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting, I think, as we can really try to push some of those very resourceful parts of us aside. When we can understand what they're trying to do, when we can call upon them when we need them, I think that's also part of our superpower when we understand what our kryptonite is.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. So when we're talking about parts, we're talking about there's actually a therapeutic, psychological therapeutic system called internal family systems, of which both Louise and I have partaken as clients. We utilize some of the language with our own clients as well. But there's also that greater thing of like our parts of our personality, right? The parts of our being. So when I say that I have this little stickler part, this little perfectionist part, it's one part of my being, right? I have other parts that will come up that want to control the situation, that want everybody to be pleased. And right, it's like a big people pleaser over here, like all of the things. And those are some of my parts. Some of my parts are very empathetic parts, so we are multifaceted beings as human beings. And so understanding what those parts are and taking a little bit of time to create that awareness of self, a deep, deep awareness of self, allows us to lean into those superpowers with an awareness of the kryptonite, awareness of this is who I am. And this is part of the inner narrative that I have. And how do I then create from this space of duality, of all of these, more than duality, but all of these pieces and parts of ourselves. So I think having even that knowledge, going back to the play and the joy as being really important, also that knowledge of self, that clarity of self is so important, right? The clarity, the experimentation, right? And next week, we're going to talk about another part that is so important in developing our kick-ass career, but also working with our superpowers and creating the lives and the work that we want for our lives. Louise, what are we talking about? That third, because right, it's that clarity, that understanding, the implementation. And what are we talking about next week?
Our community, right?
We're talking about the importance of community. We are also launching the Kick-Ass community and your Kick-Ass career community. There we go. All the words came out. So you'll get more information next week about that as well. But really, we want to talk about the importance of community in developing your Kick-Ass career, in developing your Kick-Ass life, in which defining how your career, how all of that works with who you are uniquely as a human being and all your beautiful parts that work together.
I love it. Kim, what's your golden nugget from today?
My golden nugget is the fact that we both, and well, I guess I knew this. There's another level of knowing it from our conversation today. Is really that of starting with that place of play, of joy, is so important. To taking the heaviness out of, oh, I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. You get to figure out what you're doing with your life. You get to figure out where you want to live next. You get to. Right.
Yeah.
And that's not glitter on poop. Like, you get to do that.
Yeah.
Because you're always in choice.
Absolutely.
How about yours?
I just love the idea too of kind of keeping in mind that we have all of these pieces of us, these parts of our personality that can shine and are resourceful in their own way at different times, and that that we're not just one thing, right? And I think when we're stuck in our career journey, we get really fixated on like that one thing that's not working, and taking some time to say to see that we're these beautiful, very complex creatures, and how do we harness all of that through self-awareness?
Yeah. And just as a reminder, no, it's up there already. Louise, keep talking because I can't talk and type.
I can talk.
I did it. All right, I just put into the chat as well. Just the link again. If you want to take the quiz, it's there. If you're interested in getting on the wait list for the community, it's there. Being on the wait list means that you're going to get information when we launch the community, when we open the doors, and you'll be the first one to get the information on how to become a founding member.
Yeah,
super excited.
Love it. Yeah, so we did all the things. I feel like we checked some boxes today. And moving forward into the weekend. So I want to wish everyone a kick-ass weekend from your kick-ass career.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for joining us live and in the recording, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
You bet.
Bye for now.
Bye.